guys something, and that is, do any of you hate to drive at night? Boy, that was strong. Yeah, I kind of do too, and I don't really see that well at night. And you know, it's kind of hard to judge how far turns are, and if you follow directions like I do, you know, such and such on 350 West doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. My directions are like, well, you go down to this house and you turn right, and if there's a dog tied up to this tree, you've gone too far. You know, that's kind of how I do directions. And so when you can't see familiar landmarks, that makes driving harder at night too. It's harder to navigate. And some of us maybe even have restrictions on our license that forbids us from driving at night. And how about getting up in the middle of the night? Does anybody have to get up in the middle of the night? And I, you know, we don't have a restroom upstairs at our house, and our bedrooms are, so we got to come all the way downstairs in the dark to get to the bathroom. And I already told you I don't see very well in the dark. So when I try to make it down the stairs, I've slipped down the stairs before. I've run into walls. You know, I'm so horrible at even telling where things are in my own house that I've lived in for 14 years. I've run into the door jamb, I don't know how many times. Tripped over furniture. I stubbed my toe on table legs, and then I try to do that. You know, you don't want to just fly into it. You try to adjust your eyes, right? You try to sit there and blink and focus and everything. You try to get some light in your eyes to see them. But I tried to do that too, and it just doesn't work out very well. Put your glasses on. Oh, well, it's so bad. I mean, I can't even see with them on in the dark. I mean, I don't know. I don't have enough. You're the teacher. Is it rods or cones or? Sure. Whatever it is, I'm lacking in it, I guess. But I've gotten really banged up trying to make my way through darkness in my life, and I think that life is a little bit like that too. And maybe you would agree with me. Maybe you feel a little stuck in the dark sometimes, and maybe you feel like you're sitting there trying to blink and adjust your visions to see in the darkness. And it's a little bit like just letting the darkness creep in, and we're just trying to put up with it and live with it that way. And what might it take to light up our lives the way they ought to be lit up? And we're going to look at some of those things today as we look at Isaiah chapter 9, verses 1 through 4. And this is normally a passage that we would look at around Christmas time. And we usually don't stop at verse 4. We go on to verse 7, I think it is. And that's the passage. It's a messianic passage. It's prophecy. It's talking about the coming of Jesus Christ into the world. And the promises there of the coming Christ, it also talks as well in this passage about the condition of the lives that He's going to come into and whose lives He comes into. And I love how this passage begins, and I have it there on the front of your bulletins if you don't have a Bible with you today. And it begins like this. It says, "Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who were in distress." Who here is in distress this week? I would put myself there. And then it goes on to say in verse 2, "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned." Now look inside of this with me for a moment. Who do you feel the Almighty One is talking about here in His Word? Do we have to look very hard around us to see that people are walking in darkness? Or maybe that we are walking in darkness? I mean, I think we all are doing that. And I like that phrase, that people in this world are walking in darkness. And what that means is, when you're walking in darkness, that means you're still trying to make a go of it. You're still trying to navigate through darkness. And you can't see a darn thing, and you're stumbling through the dark, and you're running into walls, as I said I do. Walls of doubt and fear and hopelessness and things like that. And you're stumbling around in the inky blackness, and you're stubbing your toes, and you're tripping on all the ugly junk in your life that fills up our days and our weeks. The things that oftentimes are too awful to look at in a direct light. The past hurts and the hang-ups and the messes that we have and live in. And so we trip and we stumble on through and we hurt ourselves all the more when we do this. And we're trying to do what we can do, but we're doing it in the dark. And folks, are you with me on this? Can we admit to ourselves that we are oftentimes just trying to get by, walking through life, blind in the darkness? And I do this too. And I know better. I know this. I know this passage very well. I read it. I read it many times. I preach the Word every Sunday. And I try to live it. But so many times I find myself falling into the habit of walking through my life in the dark. And I get busy, and I get forgetful, and I get proud, and I get to relying on me rather than the Master. And the next thing you know, I don't even realize that the lights have been turned out on me, and I'm stumbling around in the dark, tripping into things and walking into walls. And we know we ought not to do this, and still we're inclined to do this because we as people, fallen people, are prone to walking in darkness. And it's really stupid if you think about it, but we even, I talked to you about how you try to get your eyes to adjust to the dark, and you're sitting there and you're just blinking and staring and trying to get acclimated. You're trying to see in complete darkness. And we try to do that too in how we live sometimes. We get used to walking in darkness. And it almost becomes second nature to us. It becomes familiar to us. And we've got this dark corner of our life going on, and the darkness is just sort of creeping in our lives, and maybe it's our past, something in our past that we haven't dealt with, or maybe it's our own pride that looms and chokes out the light. Maybe it's an addiction that we have, or a vice of some sort, and so we start making allowances for that, and start making excuses for the darkness. And we start saying things like, oh, well, it's not so bad, and, I've got a handle on this, or it's no big deal. Nobody can see this in ways about me. I can handle this. And meanwhile, the darkness creeps in and creeps in and creeps in, and the light goes out, and we're sitting there struggling to see through all the darkness. And I put myself firmly on that page too. I do it too. And I think that this passage is talking to us about that. Because, as I said, we as humanity have fallen. And we fell away from God because we thought we could do this on our own. We thought we could do this living thing on our own. We thought we could be as smart as God. We thought we could be as enlightened as He is. And we thought that we just needed to be like Him and that we wouldn't need Him anymore. And the Scriptures are full of stories like that. When we listened from the very beginning to that serpent in the garden that said, you know what? Don't listen to God. You're not going to die. He's only keeping you from eating that fruit because He doesn't want you to be as smart and as powerful as He is. If you eat it, you'll know all that He knows. If you eat that, you'll be like Him. And so really, we all ate that. We weren't all there, but the human race at the beginning was there. We all ate of it. And the next thing you know, we're on the outside looking in, and we're out in the dark, and we're separated by the light, from the light. And we started making our way around in the darkness, fumbling about, stumbling, and running into walls. I don't know about you, but I got so many bruises from running into walls in my life. I got scars on my shins from running and tripping over things in my life. But I'll tell you what, there is hope. Because way back in Isaiah, we read about it. That God was going to take the next big step in His plan to pull us all out of that darkness. And it says there that the people have seen a great light, that a light has dawned. It has dawned, folks. And I want you to think about the implications of that.